Two things I'd like to talk about. One is mental preparation for competition and mental preparation for practice. But the first thing I want to talk about is mental preparation for practice, because really to prepare and to dive well in competition, you've got to do the job in practice. And some things that divers typically have to deal with is motivation, trying to find ways to motivate yourself on a daily basis, particularly when you're doing heavy training. I know I've talked to a couple of divers just recently on our team who, when we got into some heavy training, started to kind of lose sight a little bit. And I think it's important that you surround yourself with good people, good teammates who believe in supporting your goals. I think it's important to post your goals, to have goals, to post them at home so you can see them every day and to remind yourself about them. And it's important to have daily goals so that when you come into practice, you're not just showing up, but you're showing up with a purpose. For example, today I want to learn to get my arms through. Today I'm going to work on getting my knees closer together in my tuck, or today I'm going to point my toes in my tuck, or today I'm going to work on squaring out or grabbing my hands. Having goals like that really gives you a focus, it motivates you, it gives you a purpose when you come into practice. And all great athletes really work on daily goals so that every day they're getting better. The other problem that divers have to deal with in practice is dealing with overcoming fear. Now, there isn't a diver that I've known that didn't have to deal with fear, and it's not an absence of fear, it's a matter of overcoming that fear and dealing with it. And the important thing to realize is that everybody goes through that, and 99% of the divers learn to deal with that. I think one way to deal with it is to find a healthy perspective. Our sport is very safe. And it doesn't matter how bad you land, in 5 minutes later you'll be able to get up and move around. I think it's important too to how you respond to, like, if you smack. I know at the university here or at camp we really encourage our athletes, if somebody smacks, to just clap and laugh. I tell my divers you have two choices when you smack, to laugh or to cry. And if you get up and laugh about it, it's amazing how it puts things in a healthy perspective and you're back up diving again. So the other thing is to be positive, to tell yourself a lot of positive self-talk. I think it's also important to visualize and see yourself successfully performing those dives. And then probably the most important is that you lay a foundation. It's easy to just think that you can go up and chuck a dive, but if you're not prepared, you're not going to be successful. And I think a good way of handling fear is taking the time to prepare so that when you do go to learn a new dive, you feel confident that you're going to be successful with it. And that means working on a hurdle so you get a good start. It means making the right mechanics. For example, if you want to do a back 1.5, you've got to work on doing the C circle slam mechanics. Those are important. Sometimes divers tend to focus on just getting the dive off, or focus on their fear rather than on the things they want to do. Things like, okay, get my hurdle better, learn to spot, learn to get a circle slam, and those sorts of things. That way you fill your mind with the things you want to accomplish, the things you want to do, rather than filling your mind with negative thoughts and negative pictures. And I think, too, it's important that you not get ahead of yourself. If you're not quite ready for the dive, take your time. Go back and do more lead-ups. It's not a matter of if you'll do the dive, it's just simply a matter of when you'll do it. As far as competition, I think that, again, as I mentioned earlier, I think that a lot of what you do in competition to prepare for it happens in practice. If you're not doing the job on a day-to-day basis in practice, you're not going to do it in competition. There is no little magic pill that I can give you. So you have to do the work from day one in practice. That's where you prepare. And if you're doing the things you need to in practice, when you step up on the board, you will be very confident. You can fool everybody but yourself. So if you talk a big game but you're not doing the things that you need to in practice, you're not going to be confident when you step up on that board. Whether it's the conditioning, so you feel good about yourself, you've done the dives, you haven't sloughed them off or avoided doing them. Those sorts of things are all important. The other thing that I would encourage you to do for a competition is to have a plan. Going into that, if the meet's a Friday, Saturday meet, have a plan for starting on Monday on how you want to warm up and what you want to do in practice at home, when you want to leave, the things you want to do, know when your event is, what events, how you want to train. So when you come in, you're very directed in the pool. You're not standing around watching other people dive. You're not scratching your head wondering what you're supposed to do, because you know. As you get focused on you and your actions, you really get yourself to feel confident. You get focused on the to-do things rather than wondering about how the meet's going to come out or how your competition is looking and things like that. You want to focus on yourself and your coach. And I think that's important. I've had too many divers go to a meet and I'll be sitting there talking to them, and instead of listening to me, they're watching the other divers warm up. You know, the meet is your meet, and if you've trained hard and prepared well, you owe it to yourself to go out and focus on yourself and have a great meet. The other thing I would say is that divers, I've seen divers well prepared to get in a meet and tend to hold back. If you hold back, you take all the fun out of the sport, and you guarantee that you're not going to dive up to your greatest potential. You know, your goal shouldn't be to win or lose. Your goal should be to perform up to your greatest potential. And wherever that puts you, that's where it puts you. You know, my goal for my divers every year is to get into the championships and have lifetime best performances. And if we do that, I don't care where we finish. We want to perform well. So focus on that. You know, two heads are better than one. Stay with your coach. You know, work with your coach. If you've got some concerns, talk to your coach about it. Let your coach know your plan. If you're not sure about your plan for the meet, sit down and talk to your coach so that you both agree on what you want to do. You know, the championship competition part of the season, that's the end result. You know, training is a means to an end. You know, you train so that at the end of the season you can perform well. So I hope you'll keep all of that in mind and talk to your coach and put it together and have a great championship season.